signal here to give a better accurate representation.
So you want to record to cassette? Well, there's lots of different ways of doing it, but I've noticed online there isn't actually many basic videos on how to record in this day and age with an audio interface and a DAW. Because I feel like most people when they're starting off, they're going to have audio interface and a DAW, and they're going to be routing digital stuff through tape just to see how it sounds. So we're going to take advantage of, in particular, the SSL2 Plus here, but you can use any audio interface, to track backwards and forwards from cassette really quickly, depending on what you're doing, whether it's stereo mixdowns or just sending it for saturation or compression, which naturally occurs with cassette. The main things you're going to need cabling wise is two of these bad boys. So all this is just quarter jack left and right, so stereo to RCA, and you're just going to need two of them. When we use the monitor mix function, you'll probably want one of these. This is a 3.5 to quarter jack, and this is what's going to allow you to plug in headphones or speaker to be able to quickly monitor between the two. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take your SSL, and you're going to want to put the outputs of the SSL like so, and have the jacks feeding off the other side. Then we have the inputs of the SSL going in like this. This is the basic cable setup, and this is all you really need for it to work. So I mean, there's probably much neater ways of doing it, but if you're doing this, you're probably used to a mess of wires anyway, so that's absolutely fine. So these are the inputs of the SSL here. You're going to take this wire and plug this into the line out of the machine of your choosing. So here we've got the Fostex X28H. This is a high-speed multi-tracker that I absolutely love. And we're going to put the line outs into the inputs of the SSL. Here we have our output, and these are going to go into track 1 and 2, or line 1 and 2 of the Fostex. We're basically forming a little bit of a loop here, and what it's going to do is allow us to really quickly track back and forth between cassette and the computer, and also give us a bit of a monitoring function later, which is really important because this machine doesn't have 3 heads. Now, a 3-headed machine, like my lovely Marantz, basically means that you can monitor because there's another head that reads the data coming off, and it means that you can then hear exactly what you've put to tape before you have to plug it in and play it back and rewind it. Unfortunately, the Fostex doesn't have it. If it did, I mean, this machine would be incredible. So we have to get a little bit creative. Everything's all plugged in. Here is a cassette master. So we've basically, all I've done here is I've just raised the high end a little bit and the low end because we're going to be using these lovely Type 2s. They make a very good accurate representation of the sound, but there is a slight reduction in certain frequencies. So if we play here, we can hear we're not getting anything, okay, because the levels haven't been set. So at least on the Fostex, we've got an ARM track 1 and 2 for recording. So this means this is now up, and we can put, if we're feeling particularly paranoid, we can put this to the input mode as well. Now the monitor mix here, if we switch this to USB, it will now monitor exactly what the computer is playing. Now, this volume is controlled using this monitor level here. So you can see that we're turning it up and we're getting some nice fat levels over here on the Fostex. That is your basic setup. So you could just stop here, that's it. You just press record and then done. But the interesting little loop we've made makes it a little bit more easier to pull things on and off when you want to. If I press the line in now, on channel 1 and 2, or the input of the SSL, if I play, we've now got the levels coming in here, and because this is the direct line out, it's now feeding back into itself. So at the moment, if I was to just press record here on another channel, then it would just record itself. So what we need to do is we actually need to put something down the tape. Give it a little play, find your levels. Type 2s you can sort of gently saturate, or you could really push them in. You know, if you're doing sample work and you're just putting samples on here to take off, then you can. But the premise is basically the same for all of it. Yeah, I'd probably say there, I'm happy with that. Then what we can do is we can do a tape run. So the levels are all set. We've panned left and right here. The tracks are armed. We can reset our counter so we know where to go back to. Turn off line here. Line is off here. Make sure that stereo is clicked in as well because we are sending a stereo signal out. And we just hit play. Levels all right. You can add a click track here as well. So if you're doing individual tracking, so you're sending drums, synths, cymbals, anything you want, cymbals and cymbals. Press and play, come back, levels are okay. Let's hit record. So we're now recording, press play, and there we go. So we're doing the first tape run. And the fact that we have levels over here, this is what the head is essentially sending to the main deck. Because remember, this is a multi-tracker, so it is also a mixer. So you can actually you can ignore the cassette function if you like, and just use the mixing board. And I assume that because they've got the inputs on the front, that they kind of designed this to be used in different studios, take it around, it come with a lovely case. So I imagine they designed this to be a bit more portable than sort of just sat there. You can use the individual mixing functions and send an auxiliary returns even without using the cassette, so it's quite handy. We're actually peaking a bit more than we were before, so we can bring that down a little bit. We'll go to 50 and then we'll rewind and then pull it off. Okay, so we've got a nice little recording there. We're going to want to immediately pull back to 0. Oh, one off. We can take off the armament, so the tracks aren't armed anymore. And at least on the Fostex, we're going to switch to 1 and 2 and then pull these up automatically, because we know. Because we've just recorded 2 tracks, then we can just set these to the stereo field, so right and left. We can arm here, we can activate our line in again, and I've got a nice little track labeled here, arm up. And you can see on Ableton that when we press play, we're getting some nice fat levels. Yeah? God, you make it. You're like, well, where are they gone? No, they're there, they are there. Okay, so record, nothing, play. Okay, we have some nice fat levels. This is good. Now you can do individual EQing from here if you like. So this has got a really nice high shelf here, so I can just raise the high end here. It's a very basic shelf, but it does the job. But the coolest thing about using the SSL specifically is because it's got this 4K feature, which does add some lovely harmonic distortion, which is based off one of their old consoles, is you can hit this 4K button and immediately apply the 4K back to the signal that you're receiving through the SSL. And, you know, it does make a difference. If you're doing individual mono outs, you can also just apply, you know, the 4K to the 1. So the only other thing with this, I guess, is to talk about HiZ. So because we're using a line level signal, it should be fat enough for it. But unfortunately, sometimes either the way that you've recorded it or the cabling you're using or whatever it is, it might need a little bit of touching up. So you can use the HiZ and you'll see there'll be a massive audio increase. So HiZ on, and I mean that's now clipping. The signal is much more wider, there's a lot more definition, but the volume is quite high. So if you're using the HiZ, just bring this down a little bit to match it, and then you can put on HiZ happily. And then if you really wanted to, you could add some 4K on top, minding your levels. So that's it. That's the basic premise. That really is the basic premise. And then from there, you can just go backwards and forwards. So what about very quickly hearing exactly what you've put down and then what you have in the DAW? If you're quickly tracking back and forth and you want to hear exactly what it is, this is where our other cable comes in handy. You can do this with headphones, but I'm going to use it with speakers so I can actually show you. If we take one of the main inputs out on the SSL2, we can then feed this signal into a speaker. Now, but the way that what is that? What does that button do? I think it's an enhance button. We're going to use the monitor mix function to basically mimic a bigger tape studio setup. So if we go back to 0 again, it's like direct drive, I love it. Bring these levels down. Make sure that you've put these to track 1 and 2. And what you're going to do is come back over here and solo out the original. Now, at rough, I know we recorded slightly after because we're not getting levels until about 2 or 3. Yeah. So the way the monitor mix works is this will be USB. So this will be any audio currently playing through the computer. So VLC, Ableton, Logic, whatever it is. Now, if we switch this back here, we'll go to input. So this will be playing the input of this little loop we made, which is the Fostex. And then very quickly, you're able to just switch back and forth. Press and play at roughly the same time. So we're now listening to USB. And this is tape. USB. Tape. USB, and we can put 4K on now so we can tell the difference. Tape, USB, tape. We can match the signal here to give a better accurate representation, although we are clipping now, so we can bring it down a bit. DAW, tape, DAW, tape, and we can add some extra low end here on the tape. And there you go. So, I mean, it's just a really simple, easy way of doing it. And I mean, it looks much neater when it's all sort of all tucked away. You can use this with any tape machine and it will work. So you can use it with something like this lovely Marantz, which does have 3 heads. So it's not really necessary. Plug in, line out, same sort of setup here with this loop. And then you're able to very quickly go, ah, yes, okay, that sounds right, that sounds right. If you've got a 3-headed machine, you don't need to do that because you can just monitor immediately between tape and source. So you know exactly what you've put to tape before. The guy who come up with the 3-headed machines are absolute genius because this is all that we're doing is trying to emulate a 3rd head. But it's just, yeah, it's a nice little setup. Mono, right, so if you want to track individual elements to the tape, and this is, again, is just a really easy way of adding, you know, cassette to your setup. If we go back to Ableton and we have, let's say, kick, nice generic kick. Let's move back to USB. You don't have to break your loop setup when you're tracking individual elements to this. All you would do for this is you just pull out one chord here. You'd come over to your kick and you'd make sure that you've got a utility on it and click mono. And that means it's just going to send one mono signal. And you can actually come over here and just put 1 or 2 or 1. Huh, did I have those round the wrong way the whole time? No. We're getting a nice kick here. Turn off line, otherwise it will just loop itself. So we'll rewind here. Find our 0 spot. Maybe actually just before. Exactly the same sort of thing. Arm it for track 1 rather than left and right, so because we're not going for a stereo field here. This is to take advantage of track 1, 2, 3, and 4. Record. Add in a click track if you like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Whilst we're monitoring, because it's not 3 heads, we can't tell what we're doing on the machine, so we have to look over here. So you can see if I drop this, this is the tape. Now if we come back up, we can see our levels here. That's how you get individual elements onto the tape, and then you can mess around with them like that. And we can play, make sure this is on. You can leave this on all the time if you like. It's just sometimes it makes it a bit funny. Sometimes if you don't know where you're going back to input or not, you just forget. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what's causing that. Ah, that's what's causing that. So that's what happens with the feedback loop. This is why we turn this off, because occasionally through the feedback circuit. Anyway, I don't want to blow the preamps on this poor thing. So yes, make sure this is off when you're tracking back and forth. Yeah, and that's that. So if we want to come back, we can make sure that we're on track 1 and 2. We can put track 1 up, press play, And there's our kick. Only on one mono. So that's it. That's the basic setup. So that's kind of how you get mono and stereo off. I'll probably definitely do another video on the Fostex because it is just such an incredible machine. I feel like this is just a really easy way of adding cassette to your setup, and you can do all sorts from this point. So you can run individual samples through here, which I'll probably do a video on. You can do individual mono parts like this. You can also do whole level mastering and just see how it sounds and see how it plays. Tape does something incredibly unique to sound. There is a natural compression there. There is a natural harmonic beauty that is added, even in cassette. Yeah, it's just a joy to work with. When it's not fiddly. So when this setup saves me a bit of time and lets me be able to, you know, quickly track back and forth. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.